Hello and welcome to ANC Decides, the show that gives you up-to-the-minute reports, commentary and analysis building up to the ANC's December elective conference. I'm your host, Mfundo Mabalan. Let's now take a look at what's making headlines. Standard Bank reports cast doubt on country's economic stability if Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma emerges as ANC president. Questions abound about the bank trying to influence the succession race. ANC Treasurer General Willem Mkhize's name goes missing on his Pietermaritzburg branch voters' roll. Mkhize says his name was there when he attended the branch executive committee meeting. And Northern Cape PC responds to 4 branch challenging the provincial structure's legitimacy. Disgruntled members claim that proper processes were not followed in the election of the current PC. Leading our bulletin, the ANC succession battle has taken a new twist with big business weighing in on the hotly contested race. Standard Bank has nailed its colours to the mast, casting doubt on Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma's presidency. Standard Bank claims that if Dlamini-Zuma emerges as the next ANC president, she will advance populist policies like a free higher education and expanded social grants net. This would, according to the bank, put additional pressure on the national budget. The bank further claims that an outright NDZ victory would alienate urban voters and foster a split in the ANC. Meanwhile, this raises questions about private sector institutions doing bidding for their preferred candidates.
It is an open secret that some comrades who are contesting towards the National Congress of the ANC are part of what we call the white monopoly capitals. Some have you know about Marikana. People have shares in big companies. People are owning certain mines. Now, this report is basically triggered by the fear of the radical transformation. It is basically the fear that certain people in some corners fear that they are no longer going to get what they used to get. They are no longer going to get more richer when the radical transformation has been implemented.
Everyone here who's living in South Africa have his own things. But you cannot say that you are going to say to leaders to say that because you're having this, or people are saying this about you, you are moved aside. We are here to build the African National Congress. And what you are saying as a Northern Cape is only one person who's going to build this African National Congress is Congress Cyril, with his credentials.
I think members of the ANC are very much conscious. Members of the ANC are very much clear. Members of the ANC, they exactly know what they want. And smear campaigns, I don't think they will be in a position to derail membership of the ANC to move to another perspective because of smear campaigns. We believe that Cyril Ramaphosa is going to emerge.
It is not a new tendency that is creeping into the ANC of false allegations made against members of the African National Congress. And as the province, we have decided to support the names of all those on the list of Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa.
Now today in studio, we're joined by political activist Papano Pasha and MKMVA and NEC member Carl Niehaus panel. Welcome to the both of you. Now, firstly, perhaps, Carl, to start with you. Can we all perhaps agree that politics has a profound impact on the economy and therefore what politicians go on to utter may perhaps drive business confidence up or down?
Yes, of course, that is true. But at the same time, we must be very careful to have the various businesses, including Standard Bank, coming out with reports which are clearly biased, which is clearly presented to us as some kind of academic research report, while underlying that report is an intention to support a particular candidate and to decampaign another candidate. That is unacceptable. And Standard Bank, with its checkered record, especially with the kind of behavior that we've seen from them and also the collision that has taken place, that they, together with ABSA and also with Investec, has clearly been found to be involved in, should really be very quiet about these matters, and they must not play this kind of role where they're trying to influence the politics of South Africa. The important thing for Standard Bank is to understand that when they attack the policies of Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, especially about radical economic transformation, they are not talking about bringing stability to South Africa. In fact, they are talking about maintaining the current status quo of inequality, and as Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma had said so clearly, inequality in the way that we see it today is in fact the greatest danger for stability. So Standard Bank is trying to support policies that are unsustainable, and the status quo can surely not be continued.
Papano, your take, do you think it would have been prudent of the analysts at Standard Bank to perhaps go on to analyze a win of all the 7 candidates, that they're well within their right to inform their clients of a possible win of Nkosazana, but then go on to also analyze the others, because they all have strengths and weaknesses?
Look, I think one mistake that we must not make is to assume that the bank has interest of all the other candidates. Surely the bank would take sides of a candidate who would continue or who would aspire to push the agenda of white corporate South Africa. So Standard Bank has taken a position. And I think what is critical looking at the document from Standard Bank is that they want a candidate who would continue with policies that are pro-capital, that are pro-minority, and that do not take into confidence the situation of the oppressed and the exploited. So, to all well-meaning South Africans, they should note that Standard Bank surely is anti-poor, it's anti-black, it's anti-working class. And Nkosazana represents everything that, the bank seeks to achieve.
No, we'll certainly come back to that conversation on inequality. Now, the road to the ANC National Conference is getting rockier by the day. ANC Treasurer General and presidential candidate Zweli Mkhize's name has mysteriously been removed from the voters' roll. Mkhize says his name and that of his wife were on the Peter Maritzburg branch voters' roll when he attended a meeting of the branch executive committee recently. Now, Mkhize's removal raises suspicion about attempts to tamper with the nominations process at branch level. Meanwhile, experts say Mkhize is highly unlikely not to be in good standing as a national office bearer. Now, this then raises questions about foul play within ANC structures if the party can safeguard its elective processes. Now, here's what is generally understood to define a member in good standing: fully paid annual membership fees, attendance of organizational meetings, impeccable political and social track record. We now cross over to our reporter out in KZN, Nomusa Pumula. Nomusa, a warm welcome to you. We understand that it's become, or at least we understand that Zweli Mkhize and his wife suddenly are not appearing on their branch's voters' roll. What exactly is the story there?
Well, good evening, Fundo, the panel, and the viewers at home. This is quite a bit of a tricky situation because at the end of the day, the role is a responsibility or a sole responsibility of the national SG in this case, which is Gwede Mantashe. Speaking from some members from the branch which would like to remain anonymous, they have mentioned that this is a situation that is beyond the hands of the branch region as well as the province. It was the fault, or it was in the hands of the national office, because you will remember, Mfundo, for the role to come to the branch, it has to be compiled by the SG, who then makes sure that the role is of high security, that no one can be able to make a copy of this. This was also said by the SG himself in one of the press briefings earlier on, saying that no one can be able to manipulate the role because they will be having serial numbers that cannot be photocopied by anyone. But on the other hand, Fundo, you would remember that in order for a member to be in good standing, or in order for the membership to be verified by the SG himself, the membership has to come with a proof of payment, because you know that bank steps they are alleged to be bought by some people so that they influctuate their membership. But in this case, it could have happened that Dr. Zweli Mkhize and Mame Mkhize's membership were submitted but rather late, or they were submitted without the proof of payment, which is in this case was supposed to be a deposit slip, not a a bank stamp which could be bought, allegedly being bought by some people to inflate their membership. But in this situation now, it is in the hands of the SG to actually clarify what exactly happened with the membership of the Treasurer General as well as Usismay, his wife. But also, Mfundo, you would understand that him not appearing on the roll does not necessarily not make him a member in good standing in the African National Congress. Hence, I said that now it's all in the hands of the SG to really clarify what is happening. But also, there has been other allegations within the province, people alleging that the votes have been rigged, warm bodies have been invited to the BGMs just so that they can be able to sign the register and leave, so that now when they start the process of nominating, there are hands that can be picked and the hands that cannot be picked. Because remember now, if you have a contestation for a particular position, it would now lead for you to go to the roll and be able to verify all these members that are voting in that particular branch. But if you just have warm bodies who came and signed the register, then left, and only certain people can raise their hand and nominate in a branch, then in that situation you will not need to have to go to the roll and verify all those people. You'll just have a person nominating and a seconder, and then the name can then be submitted as a nomination, Fundo.
Thank you very much, Nomusa, for that clarity. Now, panel, back to inequality. Now, this debate is predominantly polarized by the pro-growth, which are called capitalists, and the redistribution camps. But then, is it okay to be having political leaders giving that anti-business rhetoric, or we need to bring them on board as business as well, because they have the capital that we need to change this economy?
Well, let me first of all state that Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma's statements are not anti-business, but they're anti a business system that continues to exploit the majority of blacks and especially Africans. And she herself, and I repeat myself from what I said before, said that the business community must understand it if the empowerment of the majority of South Africans doesn't take place. In fact, the instability that comes with this huge gap between rich and poor, this vexed question of inequality, will lead to a society that is inherently unstable. And that can't be good for business either. So the growth in our economy has to be growth that creates jobs. But it can't just be the creation of jobs. It must also be the empowerment of the majority of South Africans. You know, we just can't have a situation where the majority of people in South Africa are not the majority of the shareholders on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We can't have a situation where the white community continue to dominate this economy. That is unacceptable. It doesn't reflect the demographics of South Africa, nor does it reflect any sense of justice. So we have to change it. And that will be good for business, and it will be good for stability in South Africa.
Now, Papando, many of the technocrats talk to us about the global context, that business wants stability, or investors want to see stability. And if we're going to be populist, according to them, then we're not going to get investment. What is your take to those technocrats that go on to talk about the stability that is needed by investment?
Well, I think it's quite unfortunate to use the issue of stability or populism in particular, because the reality is that in South Africa we need to redress, past injustices. Now, if it means that we have to be populist, let it be, because we cannot continue with the status quo. I mean, if you look at Business South Africa, I mean, what is significant is that they've not even accounted for their role during apartheid. I mean, for example, you spoke about the fact that Business South Africa has capital. The question is, how did they accumulate that capital? Surely from the exploitation and oppression of black people. And today, we've not spoken about that. It has been business as usual. And where we are sitting, the black majority has to sit and request for handouts from the business community. It cannot be. And if it means that you have a leader who's able to confront this distorted economy, then perhaps Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma is what South Africa actually needs. But we cannot continue like this. And another factor, if you look at the business community or investors, they invest anywhere as long as they can make profit. They invest where there are despots. They invest where there are warlords. So it's not a question of instability or popularity. The reality is that business South Africa wants to continue as business as usual. And, you know, the majority of South African, and including a well-meaning the white community, they must be able to say it's enough. Enough is enough, because as my fellow panelist has indicated, it's not in the best interest of South Africans to have this condition where the majority are in squalor, in poverty and degradation.
No, we'll come back to that point. Now, the Northern Cape Provincial Executive Committee faces court action over its legitimacy. Now, some branches are challenging the process leading up to that election. The province is torn between presidential candidates Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa. The current provincial structure is backing the ANC deputy president, while the previous structure backed Dlamini-Zuma. Meanwhile, the PEC says Zamani Sol and his leadership team were illegitimately elected. The disgruntled members are seen as supporters of former chairperson Sylvia Lucas, who did not accept democratic outcomes.
BGMs took place in the lead up to the provincial conference. All disputes that were declared by members received the proper attention. The provincial conference was convened in a fair way, free and fair way, and the outcome was then communicated to delegates who attended. Here we sit with a case of sour grapes. People are not happy that they were not elected to be part of the provincial leadership. And we are aware who those people are. Surely there were actually pockets of comrades who were not happy that we nominated Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa to become the president of the ANC. Now they are instigated from outside also to lodge complaints against our processes, just to ensure that all processes are actually being messed up. We are confident that we'll actually emerge victorious, because nothing was untoward with our provincial conference.
We now cross over to our reporter Giovanni Majani out in the Northern Cape. Giovanni, we understand that disgruntled ANC members are taking the ANC leadership there to court. On what grounds exactly?
Indeed, just like the weather, Mfundo, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to the viewers. Things are heating up in the ANC in every single province, it seems. And it seems that the third force, being the legal system, the courts, have started getting involved. The Northern Cape is no different from any other province. We do know it started in the Eastern Cape, as well as KZN, Northwest, Free State, just to mention a few, have gone through such incidences. But just to clear this out, we have two ANC activists who are going to just give us a bit more on this. Eric Kotzing, thank you so much for joining us. Just explain to us, because on the media, it seems that the only reason why you're going to court now is because you prefer a different slate, a different member going to become the ANC president come December, other than under the leadership of Zamani Sol deciding to go with Cyril Ramaphosa.
Thanks for the opportunity to make this quite clear. As a member of the ANC, and as a South African, I have a right with respect, given to me by the Constitution, that I can have a preference of leadership. But I need to make categorically clear that this matter has absolutely nothing to do with preferences of leadership. It has everything to do with BGMs being rigged, with the conference itself being a problem, with manipulation, with the false audit reports. If you were to go through our notice of motion, the court papers, if you were to go through the affidavits that we put through, nowhere does it say this is with respect to NDZ or Cyril Ramaphosa or any other candidate. It is purely about the manipulation of the ANC, the disregard for the constitution and procedures of the ANC, and all those things. And we believe we have made a serious case. We believe we've made a case with respect to all these issues. Now, if anybody has a different view,
Thank you so much. I do understand. And then we go to Nombulelo Modise. If you can just give us an understanding, we do know that there are certain characters that are now playing their part within the province that are saying that they have certain titles or representing certain people, and it's actually getting into the way.
Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to come and clear out as well our dissatisfaction. I think it must be noted that there's no way Charles Ngoma is an REC member. They gave you, again, they are used to giving bogus people to represent legitimate structures. Charles Ngoma and Non Dumiso are not REC members. I don't know on what capacity were they addressing you guys. And Rona, we are used to being purged. This is not for the first time. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So it clearly seems that on the ground a lot is happening just before the December elective conference. You know, a lot of dealings happening within the Northern Cape, stating that they did go through the processes that were needed internally, and that's why they have led to their last resort being the court. And internally also saying that they are being, you know, pressurized and manipulated to head for other leadership over others also internally. With the messages going through to December, we do know that the responsibility of deciding the next leadership of the ANC will be with the branch delegates. So we hope, and they hope as well as an organization, that this will be done diligently with the responsibility and looking through the eye of the needle.
No, Giovanni, thank you very much. An interesting picture that's painted there in the Northern Cape. But Carl, back to our main topic today. There's talks of a split in the ANC. We cannot argue this is that defining moment for the movement. And these two groupings, the Cyril Ramaphosa and Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, they seem to differ fundamentally. What would unite them beyond this conference?
Loyalty to the ANC and a preparedness to accept the outcome of the democratic processes of the ANC and the empowerment of the branches. Any person who is truly a member of the ANC knows that the ANC branches ultimately has to decide who is the president and who are the members of the national executive. Mm-hmm. The problem, it's very important that we understand this. The problem that we are faced with is that there are some members who seem to say that they will be prepared to break away from the ANC if they do not get their way. And unfortunately, there are some candidates who allow some of these members and some organizations, such as the SACP, to issue blackmail statements, to say if their preferred candidate is not elected, they will break away.
The SACP is issuing blackmail statements, or are you saying they're allowing those that say that?
Of course, it is a blackmail statement when you say, if we do not get our candidate being elected, we will consider to move away and we may go it alone in 2019. That is a blackmail statement. The sad thing is that the particular candidate who has been referred to as their preferred candidate had not spoken out and had not said that is wrong. And I'm on record to have said that one of the critical issues that we demand from every leader of the ANC at this moment is that they who stand for the presidency must say, I will be prepared to lead, but if I lose, I will be prepared to follow. And I will be prepared to put the ANC first, not myself. So unity must be about the ANC first. And unity must be about accepting that democracy must prevail in the African National Congress.
But Carl, is
democracy
it a free-for-all?
has always been the root of the ANC.
But is it a free-for-all here where we're saying we want the deputy president to perhaps condemn such utterances from the SACP? Because there is a leadership of the ANC that can speak. If he as a presidential hopeful doesn't speak out, leadership of the ANC must come and reprimand those or bring them together and say, we want to know why you are so strongly opposed to an NDZ win. How can we meet each other halfway?
Well,
Has that
course,
happened?
No, there's no need for a halfway meeting. Of course, there are two reasons why I refer specifically to the need for Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa to speak out about this. Firstly, he is the deputy president of the ANC. So he is the second most senior leader of the ANC. Secondly, these statements are being made in his name. Because it is being made in his name, the onus rests on him to take the necessary action to speak out and to call for unity. Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma had said very clearly, every time when we talk about unity, I will accept if I lose, to fall in behind whoever wins, because for me it is about the ANC and not about myself. I've not heard the same statements from some of the other candidates, and that is a serious problem.
I've got a specific question for you, Papa, as a political activist.
Yes.
Now, it's said here, some are saying the problem in the ANC, there are two problems in the ANC. You've got those that have been fronting for capital, which we call corporate politicians. These people were deployed into business, they became board members in the business arena, and they became filthy rich. We see them drive around in Bentleys. That's the one problem. And this was said it's all in the name of black economic empowerment. And then there's the second problem of those that go on to loot state entities. And those that are doing so are doing it in the name of transformation. That there are two problems, and they've also gotten rich out of this. We see them driving Bentleys as well. As a political activist and political observer, what do you say to the ANC? Do they need to have an honest conversation about these two groupings that have gotten rich while ordinary South Africans watched?
Look, before I answer you, what I wanted to say is, I think the question of the split might present a perfect opportunity for the ANC. If you look at the two candidates, they present different ideological inclination. I mean, since 1958, if one might say, this is the first time that the ANC is actually, or a conference is actually contested on ideological grounds. Hence, I'm saying that it might be a perfect opportunity, because if you look at the ANC itself, it's ideologically confused. It stands for everything and nothing at the same time. For example, when you speak about the issue of Bentleys, well, there's nothing wrong with driving a Bentley if you've worked hard for it. But what we've seen, for example, is that the ANC itself endorsed what we call a patriotic bourgeois, meaning that it is the ANC which came up with policies that seek to create an elitist class. So it's the ANC policy that created the mess that we are in today. Now the question is, are ANC members who are poor, who are in poverty, who don't have a roof over their head, who might not even eat tonight, are they willing to continue with the status quo? Because it is ANC branch members who elect the elite, yes, that elect this elite into power. Now, for example, you talk about your comrade bourgeoisie.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but would you agree that they need to have an honest conversation behind closed doors about these issues?
No, yes, if I may come. You see, the biggest challenge in the ANC is that ordinary ANC members don't have a voice. It's the political elite which decides. So until
you vote them into power, and then you're silent. So today you matter. You really would need them to come.
Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma and our policies for radical economic transformation, we are not confused. We are clear. And we believe that if the voters vote for us in the ANC, that what we are talking about now will come to an end, and we will have
Thank you very much,
economic
Carl.
empowerment.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. We have to go to our poll question. Now, this week's poll question is white monopoly capital a reality in the South African economy? You can take part in our survey on our website and social media. Our Twitter handle is @ANN7TV. And that's where we leave it until next time.